Good morning, everyone. Welcome to WiVi Central Coast 2023. My name is Erin Kirshenman. I'm the managing editor for Wine Business Monthly, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here with all of you today. So we started doing WiVi in 2013, so this will be the 10th year that Wine Business Monthly has done WiVi Central Coast. And in that time, the Central Coast has grown tremendously. We went from 700 to nearly 1,000 wineries in that time period. You guys are setting absolutely wonderful precedents for quality. People around the world are starting to recognize Paso Robles, Monterey, and Santa Barbara County for the fantastic wines you produce. Our trade show has grown. We're now in 3 of the buildings here. Our sessions have grown. We now have a winemaking and a direct-to-consumer track. Our tastings continue to get better and better. And to be honest, a lot of us have come to love Paso Robles and the Central Coast just as much as we love home. This is one of the trade shows that I am very excited to be part of, to come down to Paso Robles. I will do it for any excuse possible. So email them to me. Come on, I need them. Today is going to be full of a lot of great information. I'm very excited for the program that has been put together, and I'd like to thank Stacy Jacob and Solterra Strategies for helping us with this. We have 3 winemaking and viticulture sessions, 3 direct-to-consumer sessions, and then at the end of the day, please stick around because we're doing a fantastic tasting of the new Slow Coast AVA. You do not want to miss tasting some of these wines. To help put this program together, we had a wonderful group of advisory board members, and I'd like to thank them for all of their help, as well as our speakers, many of whom flew in from places like Washington, Miami, DC, to be here with you today. I'd also like to thank our sponsors. This conference would not be possible without them. They are all out in the trade show, so please go see them when you have a chance during the breaks. And don't forget that we have our Vineyard Automation Center as well. They are demoing the new steep slope tractor, so I know I will personally be running over there as soon as the session's done. So let's get to it. I'm excited to announce our keynote address. This is a lively group of panelists. It's 8:30 in the morning, and my cheeks already hurt from laughing because of these people, so you are in for an absolute treat. Our first speaker is going to be Cindy Leonard, Executive Vice President, General Manager of Fine Wine for Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. In her 30 years of beverage alcohol experience, Cindy has spent time at E&J Gallo, Remy Amerique, and Jackson Family Wines. She now serves on the WSWA, Communications, Federal Affairs, Talent, and Diversity Councils. She's an active member in Southern Glazer's Exceptional Leaders Program for future leaders, and I'm very excited to hear what she has to say today. Please help me in welcoming Cindy.
Good morning. Oh, it works. Oh, that's great. So happy for that. Usually we have AV things. I wanted to thank you very much for having me here today. As she was saying, I've been with Southern Glazers over 2 decades now. Started in the wine business really as a server, which is, I think drinking age in Arizona was 19, so sorry. We were able to, I learned a lot about engaging with the customer, and I really fell in love with that experience when many people like me would sit in meetings and listen to people like you talk about their wines. So from there, I went to Gallo, and I was part of their hotel restaurant division in Los Angeles, came up through the business that way. And then I went to go work for Remy, which was an import company at the time. We had beautiful wine, so it was weird going from Bartles and James to Krug Champagne. That's a whiplash right there. But it inspired me to learn more, and the court wasn't really very active in what they were doing with CMS training and so on. So what happened is I put myself through night school at UCLA, learning about wines from people like you, because they didn't have teachers, they had specialists like you teaching about wine. From there, I went to go work for Jackson Family. Interesting time, because that's about the time Jess Jackson started Regal Wine Company and started self-distributing. And I was pin number 1 in LA. We didn't have an order book. We didn't know what a order pad looked like. We did not know what a credit app looked like and so on. But the cool thing is that we walked around with wonderful wines from this area, Cambria, Byron, telling the story of what was underneath the cork. And it was a beautiful time to bring those wines forward and tell the story and make sure not only did it get into the restaurants, but that it made the final yard to the table. And we were able to work with the servers to tell them really the 3 points are, as I was reading in Wine Business Monthly, there was a great quote from someone who said, it's the 10 seconds of magic tableside. And we really specialized in that. We were the little guy that wanted to run faster and bigger than Southern Wine and Spirits, faster than Young's Market, faster than some of those players, and get our wines in the hands of the servers. And we were successful. We were creative in how we told the stories, and it was a lot of fun setting that up. Then I moved back to Arizona, and that's when I met the leader, Michael John, who was running Arizona. And I went to go work for him eventually and start my career at Southern Wine and Spirits, which became Southern Glaziers in 2016 with the merger. All through that, I was a brand manager. At one point in Arizona, we were selling, I think, 250 million, and I was managing 120 million of it because I remembered the supplier experience, what it is like as a supplier, much like you, coming to talk to someone like me. Together, we would do good works because I challenged the wholesaler that I was working for to become better. And that's how we became stronger together and really grew our fine wine business. So let's go back to why Central Coast and why now. I have a daughter, she's 22 years old. She's finding her way. She's that Gen Z that everyone is talking about, like, how do we reach them? Oh my God, are they going to stop drinking Truly? Or what did we do here? My background and my first love was Central Coast, courtesy of Jackson. The dirt that I kicked for the first time, going out into the vineyards in the longest growing season because of the east to west, I mean, all of these things that we learned, was really inspiring to me. The taste profiles were catching. They meant something. The flavors were so evident that now you can start forming that Rolodex in your head and go deeper and get more and more curious about wine. Personally, I think that the Central Coast, Monterey, Santa Maria, San Ynez, so on and so forth, Paso for sure, is what is going to catch fire with this younger generation if we do it right. So now I'm going to jump back to Southern Glaziers. I go through Exceptional Leaders program. I run the fine wine, the supplier management division. And then Steve Slater tells me he's retiring. And I said, oh, good for you. I thought I thought Mel and then you. And he said, I'd really like you to put your name in for this. Slept on it and said, okay. Had a very nice talk with Wayne and had a very nice talk with John Wittig and Gene Sullivan and the family, because we are a family-owned company since 1968. The generations are coming forward with Mark, David, and Jen. I decided I was going to do this, but I was going to do it different. I didn't want to be the big guy. Yeah, I did $1 billion in fine wine in my fine wine division last year, in price points over 14 in Chardonnay and over $30 in red wine. But we did that by acting like the little guy and changing our culture. When we came forward and I took over, I was very fortunate to have an artisanal division, which is led by Laura Di Pasquale, who is a master som. I'm not a master som, I hired one. So I have resources. I always hire people that really will challenge you, is one of my ethos in management. So what we wanted to do is get small fast. We wanted to do big in a small way, just like we did at Regal. And we took this message to the streets, and we spent a lot of time talking to people like you. How can we do better? In fact, we sent out over 1,000 surveys to restaurateurs and retailers saying, how do we get better? How are we doing? And they're like, you're good, but you could be better. Okay, so what does that mean? That means I want people to come spend time with me. I want them to understand my business. I want them to bring wines forward that are discovery wines, because I have people who are coming in under 35 years old who don't know anything about wine. And coming out of the pandemic, the service level has gone back to zero. It's not let's get back to 2019, it's we're back in 1989. And we need to teach people how to open bottles. We need to teach people how to taste wines and the taste profile of Santa Maria versus Napa versus Washington versus Bourgogne versus South America. We need to inspire discovery. And you know what? That is something that we put a lot of time in to make sure that we're delivering that. We unified all of our wine divisions under one name. So it's not this division here, this division there in a different state, with an expectation of how we go to market, which is making sure that we are bringing forward discovery, curiosity, telling the story that's underneath the cork, and let the wine do the talking. Why did the winemaker do this? Why is this taste profile different? I think for Central Coast and Why Now, you're making wines that are so accessible to what will become the next generation and wine drinkers. The Pinots, the curiosity with Rhone varietals that are coming forward. I mean, I was tasting some of what McPrice was making with some of his barrel selections in Grenache and Syrah. Those are wonderful wines that we can be able to tell the story. And Southern Glazers is right there with you, because we want to bring you to life on the wine lists. We want to make sure we bring you to life on the shelves. And we want to make sure that we are really graduating this generation and Gen Alpha, which I found out last week, that's what they're calling this Gen Z follower. We want to make sure that they understand and grow and can experience fine wines from this particular area. You know, when I look at Napa, and Napa has its value absolutely as well too, but they're skewed to Cabernet. What is wonderful about the Central Coast, you have so many varietals that you're working with. And Mother Nature, although, sorry, rain withstanding, but it's great California's getting water. Very happy about that. I want to make sure that all of these varietals that you are sharing, it gives them the curiosity, it satisfies their curiosity if it doesn't have to be just one thing. You're also accessible. It's a friendly place to be here. I went to the Must Charities event last year, and I loved, you guys in Paso raised $2.5 million in 90 minutes, which was really blowing my mind in how you did it. You came together for people, and you value your culture of vineyard workers, winemakers, and reaching people, tasting room, the smiles and the welcomingness that happens here. I went to Tooth and Nail, and I couldn't believe it was like a virtual party happening there under 35, and I'm like, oh, we need to make sure that we are reaching these people and find out where they go so that we can be successful with your wines. It's so important to me that I'm taking my entire fine wine team. We're going to load into the Santa Ynez Marriott, and we are going to be there. I'm taking 80 people from across the nation to be in Santa Ynez and get around Santa Barbara and discover those wines. Little sprinter vans of 7 people, groups of 7, getting around to see about 40 different wineries, and that's happening in July. This is how committed, and I will say this, when we did our wine summit last year, we polled, because I like democracy, it's very good, where do you want to go? 86% of the respondents said Santa Barbara. So that's where we're going. They want to invest, and I'm here to support. So the discovery that they're going to have when they visit is going to be absolutely amazing, and I can see that we will absolutely turn on. We sell Paso. We love Paso wines. Monterey, I remember when Jess Jackson went into Monterey and some of the larger producers, because they wanted to bring those taste profiles forward. They love that crisp lemony acid and what the wind brings into Monterey. These are really important wines, what you are making here in the Central Coast, that need to sing. And we want to make sure that we are doing justice to you and getting them forward, pulling those corks and tasting them and getting them on the correct wine lists and the retail shelves. So Southern Glazers, from a fine wine perspective, what we're leading, I can't do it without you. So yes, Central Coast, we're leaning into, and it is right now, because that consumer is going to find something to drink, and I would love for it to be Central Coast wines. Thanks.
All right, we're going to save our questions till the end when I invite all of our panelists up. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the other Aaron, the more interesting Aaron, Aaron Fischletter, VP of Operations at Cakebread Cellars. He has plenty of experience launching and building brands, managing production teams, and furthering sustainability efforts, but he is here today to talk about the new Central Coast brand, Bezel. Joining him will be Jane Dunkley, their winemaker for Paso Robles. She has winemaking experience in 4 different countries and at Bonnie Doon Vineyards. She's also an MW candidate, which I learned today, and I'm very excited about that. Jane and Aaron are here. They're going to go through everything that Cakebread plans to do on the Central Coast, so please join me in welcoming them.
Thank you.
Good morning. We're the two that brought all the slides, so we'll be the ones that give you something to see. We're not interesting, so that's why we have a presentation today. We're excited to be here. I'm excited to be with Jane Dunkley. She's a force of nature. Jane, we're on our 3rd vintage of Bezel already. So we're going to talk about why would Cakebread Cellars, which is a Rutherford and North Coast-based brand, want to come to the Central Coast. And so here we go. It's funny because Jane and I have a weekly meeting. Usually it's on Teams. I'm up in Rutherford and I come down, but not nearly as much as Jane, who lives here. And inevitably there's this is how the conversation goes. What's new? A bunch of winemaking things. And then I still am getting a lot of questions about our brand. Like, for example, my favorite is we're buying fruit here in the Central Coast and shipping it up to Napa for our Cabernet so that we can control margins or something. And so that's one of many questions that you get, Jane. And so we thought we would tailor this discussion with sort of answering the who, what, where, when, why of our brand. And so who are we? I'm sure you all have an idea of who Cakebread is. We are a Napa and Rutherford-based brand, founded in 1973 by Jack and Dolores Cakebread. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary, and there are going to be a few teasers throughout this little talk of ours. And at the end, we're going to talk about some of our future and what we think our investment will be in the next decade here on the Central Coast. Founded in 1973, we're on our 50th anniversary. We're very excited about that. You will be hearing a lot about it, and I suspect we may have a few parties and things to celebrate here in Paso and maybe in Edna Valley, where we're doing the brunt of our work at the moment. From the foundation, from the founding of this company, of Cakebread, we've been about food and wine. Everything we do, our wine style, is designed for it to be paired well with food, and that will be the case with Bezel as well. And it's amazing that in our 50 years, we've had only 4 winemakers, and they've all known each other. So we have this wonderful consistency and this wonderful opportunity, I hope, for Jane to tap into that and be a part of that conversation. We own a number of vineyards around the Napa and North Coast. We just purchased a vineyard that brings us up to about 800 planted acres. And one of our tidbits is, in the next decade, we expect to make that sort of investment here on the Central Coast. So we're going to do a few things up in Rutherford and then start buying vineyards here as well, and maybe a facility. We'll see, but that's something for us to all do together as we get into it. Sustainability is at the cornerstone of who we are. It's in our DNA. You can see we belong to a number of different groups. We will belong to groups here as well. We're kind of a little bit out of whack as to why we're here, but this is who we are. I've already introduced Jane. Jane, you've been here 7 years on the Central Coast? Yeah. And with us for two vintages now as we get into the second. I will point out Tyler Stambaugh, also part of our team, who's sitting in the audience now cursing me, is our grower relations manager. and is going out, finding fruit, continuing to challenge us and himself. Why are we here? And I love this slide. Jane did all of the slides, and I love this slide because of the romance of the Central Coast. We could have gone anywhere. So I said, we were around for 50 years. The family is not intending to get out of the wine business anytime soon. So for the next 50 years, we're looking around and we're wondering, what's next? We sort of know the North Coast. We love the North Coast. But we want to have a portfolio of 5 wines that span the West Coast. And so you'll see a slide here in a moment that shows our brands, but Bezel is the first brand that Cakebread has started away from Rutherford. And when we were looking around wondering where to go, the Central Coast was the only place that we wanted to be. We love the energy. We love what's happening here. We love all of the different varieties. You know, I know Napa is about Cabernet. We read about that all the time. If you guys don't read the news, it's in the news. But there's just so much opportunity here for us. There's opportunity for us to grow and for us to learn over the next 50 years. And so that was the romance. I've said this before, and I hope I get a quote in writing sometime soon, where everyone on the Central Coast is unabashedly about the Central Coast. No one's looking up to Napa and saying, what are they doing up in Napa? Trust me, other wine regions do, and I think that clouds their perspective. But not here. Everyone here is banded together and trying new things, and that's what's exciting to us as we started exploring this area. Then we looked at some data, and we found, wow, Paso Robles is growing, and that just furthered our opinion of what we wanted and what we were looking for. And it's been exciting. Jane's going to talk about our release and what's been happening, and everyone that we've been talking to is excited about this. And then we started asking ourselves, well, what are we going to make? What is it we're going to do? We wanted to be somewhere in the $20 to $30 range. I can tell you that we're probably more around the $30 range at this point. And so we started doing some data analysis of what it is at that price point that's really interesting. And it was interesting because, wow, look, Cabernet, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, things that we know from our experience in the North can also play well here. And so that's what we're starting with. And I won't take your thunder, Jane. I'll let you have that. But
have a little
that
bit of it.
is, no, we gotta, come on, it's about selling the idea. And so that kind of gave us permission to ourselves to explore and to see what's happening. And so I came down here in 2021, kind of blindly. Anthony Bazzano took me under his wing. I don't know if he's here today. Showed me around, introduced me to a number of people, I hope who are all here today. And we started getting kind of into this brand. And so this sort of explains what we consider our portfolio at the moment. Everyone has heard of Cakebread Cellars, and you probably may not have heard of Mullen Road. Mullen Road is a Washington brand that we have that was a passion project of Dennis Cakebread's. And it's not grown as much as we would have hoped. And because of our success with Bezel and this model of having an amazing winemaker on the ground and having a great grower relations person, we've taken over kind of the operations now of Mullen Road. So that will be technically our third brand that we're starting. And it's not really starting, that we're continuing. And we'll actually open a tasting room there as well. But anyway, we're here with Bezel now, and another tidbit is we expect to have a tasting room here in the next few years as well, and continue our investment and bring that idea of food and wine to the Central Coast and learn and try and combine the two together and continue to grow. So that's our portfolio, and the other reason that we're interested is we want to talk to new people. You know, we have the same wonderful group following us at Cakebread. But we want to reach out to new people, and people are noticing here on the Central Coast. And so that's exciting for us, because we are wine geeks at Cakebread. We are wine geeks. I mean, we hired a Master of Wine candidate. I can't get much wine geekier than that. So that allows us to talk more about winemaking and what we're doing and reach new clients and new customers. And so we're very excited about that. Well, I told everyone here I came down in 2021. And started looking for fruit. The conversation started in March of 2020. And if our CEO were here, Mike Yeager, he would say, something happened in 2020 in March that gave us a lot of time on our hands. And so that's really gave us the time to get started with Bezel and with figuring out where we want to go. And because, then we brought Jane on in May of 2022. And that was when life as we knew it changed. Because Jane has taken the bull by the reins and is really getting us where we want to be. As for the what, I promised Jane I wouldn't throw this to her, but I'll hand it to her and we'll let Jane talk about that.
So while I'm up here and I have a microphone, which is really, really dangerous, I'm going to also address the 4 other questions that I get asked. And number 1 is, where is your accent from? Number 2 is, how long have you been on the Central Coast? The 3rd is, did you make wine in Australia? And the 4th is, do you know my cousin in Sydney? So I'm from a little bit further south from here. I'm from Western Australia. I grew up on a farm there. I came to the Central Coast in 2014 to help out Randall Graham at Bonnie Doon Vineyard. And you know what happens when you get to the Central Coast? You realise there's no other place you really want to be. So I did make wine in Australia. I have no other skills. I've been making wine for 12 years in Australia before I came here. And shockingly, Australia is quite a big place. So, but it is annoying when I do know that cousin in Sydney. So we'll have to take that kind of on a case-by-case basis. So I'm here to talk about Bezel. I'm here to introduce the wines. I think we heard some conversations yesterday really about how we can really showcase the Central Coast. And I think it's really exciting with what Anthony Bazzano was talking about yesterday to really have the AVAs on the labels. So at the moment we have 2 wines in the market. We have an Edna Valley Chardonnay and an Edna Valley Pinot Noir. And then coming up hot behind, we've got the Cabernet that should be released in September that I'm going to bottle next month. And to Aaron's point, Cakebread is really about being very food friendly. We want to keep kind of the heartbeat of Cakebread, but we're not really trying to emulate that Napa wine style. So you can see we've got pretty moderate French oak here. When trying to not kind of blow out the oak on these wines, keep them fresh, keep them very food friendly. I'm really excited about the Cabernet in particular that's coming across. Being able to source fruit from all over Paso, I think, is a really great opportunity as a winemaker. You kind of get to quite literally build a wine from the ground up. And of course, if you're making cool climate Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, Edna Valley is kind of our winemakers', I don't want to say dirty little secret, but I think it is really one of those AVAs that kind of doesn't get the credit it deserves. And we've already had those 2 wines in the market, and everyone is super excited about Edna Valley as a whole. And so what about the labels? Oh, I didn't realise these had...
I know, wow, fancy.
So I don't know how many of you know that Cakebread is actually the family's last name. And it always makes me hungry when I think about Cakebread, but maybe we need to have a cooking competition to see who can make the best cake bread.
There you go.
So Jack Cakebread...
Stick to winemaking.
Jack Cakebread came from really humble beginnings. He was a man of many talents. He was a car mechanic, a winemaker, but he was also a photographer. So each one of these labels has a black and white photo in the background that was taken by Jack Cakebread, and it's got that cute little grape cluster as well, which is kind of homage to Cakebread proper. And then we've got some pretty colours and a little bit more modern imagery because we're trying to capture those younger consumers, have a kind of pop on the shelf. And I think it is a reflection of that brightness and the freshness of the wine style as well. And what about the name? Bezel. So Bezel comes from jewellery, comes from watchmaking. So we really think about Bezel as being artistry, and for me it really speaks to kind of the obsession we winemakers have, kind of crafting wines, as I said, from the ground up. So we've touched a little bit that we're in Edna Valley, we're in Paso Robles. You guys all know what makes Edna Valley special. I think we're going to taste some of those wines today in the Slow Coast wine tasting, which will be awesome. So this is a slide that we show our salespeople, you know, in Connecticut and all of these other places, just to really hammer home beautiful cold climate, very hyper-coastal influence. And for us, if we're making Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, it really is the perfect climate. And also for the Cakebread family, you know, if you're in Napa, there's been some tough years in Napa lately. So being able to diversify out of Napa, get out of some fire risk and, you know, maybe hedge against global warming, Edna Valley kind of makes perfect sense, right? And then Paso. Paso's, you know, so hot right now. Obviously perfect for making Cabernet, great diurnal temperature range. I love that it's a really large AVA, as you said. It really gives winemakers the opportunity to pick and choose, and really you can grow anything here in Paso, and I love that we do. And so we all know Paso. So the other question that we really get is, how are we doing this? Because as Aaron said, we don't have vineyards, we don't really have a winery, and we're not shipping grapes up to Napa. So at the moment, we're working with growers. A lot of the growers that we work with, I've been working with, you know, in a past life when I was making Cabernet down here. So all of our fruit is purchased from grower vineyards, and we really think about this as our most critical relationship. I'm out in the vineyards as much as I can be, you know, at least kind of once a month. I do all my own fruit sampling and pick calls and things like that. So the grower relationship is really, really critical for us, and we really view this as a collaboration. The grapes then go through a custom crush facility. So we've worked with 2 so far on the Central Coast. One's going to get bottled there, and then they're going to go off to co-brand, which is a really long-term sales and marketing partnership that we've had with that company. That's so great because Cakebread doesn't have to worry about sales. We just get to focus on making wine. So that's one less thing for us to worry about. So the initial release of those wines is only in 4 markets, and unfortunately, not quite yet in California. So we released into HEB in Texas back in November, and then Tennessee, Colorado, and Connecticut. We released there in February. And so the idea with a test market launch, especially because we have Chardonnay in the mix, we really want to make sure that we don't kill Cakebread Chardonnay, because people will then just say, oh, well, why can't I just buy this cheaper wine instead? So this initial phase is really about data collection. As our president would say, we want to make sure we don't kill the golden goose. So the initial test market is just in those 4 states, and there's very different, different demographics in each of those states, and it really allows us to capture that data. And hopefully soon, not sure when, if that all goes well, we'll go national. Oh, yeah. And already, this is the data from HEB. This is really because I have a captive audience, and this is an opportunity for us to give ourselves a pat on the back. So we're already the number 2 selling brand in the Texas test market, in that price segment. And so as Aaron kind of mentioned as well, when he first came down here, he was pretty lonely. He didn't have any friends.
It's true.
And so, yeah. He's got a couple of friends now. But it really does kind of take a village to get a project like this off the ground. This is by no means everyone, but yeah, we really want to make sure that we let everyone know that we're kind of not doing this alone, and want to thank the people that are our partners in this along the way, because it really does take a village. Aaron? What else?
I think that was fantastic. Thank you. I think the other exciting things to look for with this brand as we kind of start walking off the stage, we're going to have a whole number of D2C wines. I think that's going to be the thing that's most interesting for Jane, is what kinds of fun things can we explore as well. And so we're hoping to start talking about a tasting room very seriously here in the next year, with something in the next few years. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, last but certainly not least is Julia Coney, a wine writer for the New York Times, the Washington Post, Jancis Robinson, Glamour. I could list off a bunch of them, and hopefully by the end of the day I'm going to convince her to write for me as well. She created Black Wine Professionals, an essential resource for the wine industry. And if she didn't have enough to do already, she's also the wine consultant for American Airlines. Please, I'm just so excited to have her here. Help me welcome Julia.
Good morning. Come on now. Good morning. I'm coming to bring the hype. Okay. So I want to say this. I've only been working in the wine industry 7 years, but I've been drinking for 24 of those. So when I came to wine, I came from margaritas. I went straight from margaritas to Napa Valley Cabernet in 1999. I didn't have a Segway. I didn't have any inexpensive. I just went straight to fine wine. But that's not a lot of people's experience. And so, where's this clicker? Where's my little slide? So here we go. So I said Central Coast, why now? That's what we're talking about. But for me, there's something's missing. And you know what that is? Fun. We have to start making wine fun. We got to come from a positive perspective. I know all the reports. Millennials aren't drinking, Gen Z, some alpha. Somebody just said something about a new alpha. I didn't know that name until Cindy just said it. How do we get them? How do we keep them, right? Everybody has a phone. I want you to pull out your phone, and I want you to go to your winery's Instagram or social media. Right now, come on. It's like an activity. I know. You weren't expecting it. Most of you all wineries have Instagram, correct? How many wineries here have Instagram? How many have social media? I'm not even going there with TikTok, but I just go there with Instagram, right? Look at this. Look at your Instagram. Does it reflect the way the world looks? Yesterday, Danny talked about the multicultural consumer. Under multicultural is me. I worked 5 years at a store in Washington, D.C., and I saw every age group that could legally drink come in that store. And what I noticed was everyone pulled out their phone to research a label, even though they had help. And if they didn't like the way your Instagram looked or your label, they did not buy your wine. And I know that's a hard thing to hear. We have to take into consideration what is on the label. They talked about transparency yesterday. But also when we look at your social, does it look fun? Does it look like someplace I want to be, even though I'm not there yet, right? I want to see the green grass. I want to see the winery dogs. Everybody had a winery dog, right? But I want to see that winery dog also having fun. Like, I want to see the dog playful with a ball and a wine bottle next to it. I want to look around and say, hey, this wine goes with, I know we're in like a land of farmers markets, but hey, it goes with my McDonald's. I eat McDonald's once a month. My favorite is a quarter pounder with cheese with a large fry and extra onions. And I have really great wine with that burger. So are you really promoting your wine as fun, as engaging? I am very interested as a wine journalist. I care about the bricks. I care about the sugar content. I care about the alcohol content. That's my job as a journalist. But as a consumer, when I go in, I don't really care about that. I want to know my friends and I are going to have a great time eating and drinking wine together. Does your wine make it look fun? And I know we all like, oh, but Julia, we got the crops and the weather and the rain and the snow and all this stuff. Yes, we do. I hate to add something else to your plate. I hate to do it, but I'm going to do it. Because I want to see you win and I want to see you succeed. There's been enough, 3, 4 years, young people are not drinking. Millennials, Gen Z are not drinking. You know what? They drink like I do. Last night, when I was done with wine, I had an extra dirty martini Grey Goose for $3. That's what I drink before I start wine. So we have to look at these drinkers, even though they're going to drink Truly. But guess what? They also want to drink some Paso wine. They also want to drink some slow wine. They also want to drink some Santa Barbara wine. But if we don't show them that they're drinkers across the board, then that is where we're having the problems. right? So as you think about events, are you bringing people to your winery? How are you making them a continued customer for the next few years? I'm at the top of Gen Z. No one writes about us. No one cares about Gen Z. I mean, the ones that are like 46 to 51, it's like, we're over here. Hey, I got money. I'm married. I don't have children. I have disposable income. But you're worried about this 20-year-old? I'm not dead yet. I'm still here. I'm still kicking around, and I'm just waiting for y'all to tell me what to drink. But what I do is, hey, I go on social, and I look up Paso, hashtag Paso Robles. If you haven't done that on your social, you should. Because you can see how engaging someone else is when you should be doing the same thing. Are you making it fun? You have the opportunity to make it fun. Everyone I've met here over the past few days, you guys are super nice. The tasting rooms are interesting, but we also have to change the way we taste wine, right? When the moderator yesterday, when a person walks in, no matter what age, all you think is green. Green, green, green. I see a customer, I see dollars, I see a DTC person. How do I get them to be that person? And it's more than just saying, hey, you know what? Let's talk about these wines in this way. I am a WSET person just like Jane. I'm not an MW candidate because that's a lot of stuff that I'm not about to do. But I don't talk wine as tasting notes. No, if I am talking to a person from Trinidad, they don't know what boysenberry or cassis is. I understand what it is now, but they don't. So when your tasting staff is explaining a wine to someone, the words they use need to be thought about. Who are they tasting with? I didn't know what a gooseberry was, what tasted like until 4 years ago. But every time we describe Sauvignon Blanc, what they say, oh, it tastes like gooseberry. Gooseberry? What's that? I'm from the South. We don't have gooseberries. We have plums, oranges, grapes, swampy weather, humidity. What do we have? So I'm always saying, this wine goes great with barbecue. This wine goes great with a Sonic chili cheese dog. If you've never had a Sonic chili cheese dog, you're missing out with a great Zinfandel, just letting you know. So when you talk about your wines here in Central Coast, how can you present that to someone that doesn't know anything about wine, that just like me, that came from margaritas, right? Or maybe right now they're doing White Claw, they're doing hard seltzer, and they're drinking beer. But now, because of, their favorite athlete now has a wine. How do we want them to drink our wine here in Central Coast? I'm just putting myself here now. I live in DC and Houston, so I'm now part of the Central Coast. Just stuck with me, if that's okay. So how do you get someone to continue to drink your wine? Like the bezel label. The labels were fun, right? That's how people look at labels now. They're like, oh, I mean, come on. Everyone's been in the store before you worked in wine and went, I don't know, that labels look really, really fancy. It looks like it's above me. It's above me now, so I don't know if I want to drink that. And so you have everyone coming in. Everyone's connected. We're all on our phones. And another thing, too, when you think about that in your website, how long does it take to sell a bottle of wine to someone on their phone? Has anyone ever thought about that? Someone's on their phone. They go to your website from their phone. How many clicks does it take to buy your wine? I am telling you, if it takes me more than 5 minutes on my phone, I'm not buying your wine. It's too much work. So what we need to do is meet the consumers where they are. Look at your website, take off the really pretty music and the JavaScript and the floating vistas. Put a shop button right at the top. Instead of the about, the team, the winemaker, the region, put a shop button. Because if someone tells me about your wine, I'm going to trust my friends, right? And I'm just going to go, okay. But if I have to keep clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking, I've already copied my credit card number from my phone. I'm ready to put it in, but it's taking so much time. The website's not loading, and I really want that bottle. And for me, if it's 5 minutes that I'm taking time out, I'm going to do it right then. I'm really not going to think until I get into front of a laptop to buy the wine. So you have a time to present to us, the consumer, because at the end of the day, we're all consumers, I'm really a big consumer, to buy your wine and make it easy, make it fun, make it approachable. I always say in your tasting notes, if you're gonna have them on the site, please put some realistic food. Don't give me curry goat, don't give me curry duck, don't give me all that too. Give me like a smash burger, double animal style, in and out, double fried fries. If you know if you're in California here and you don't like the fries in and out, you got to ask for them double fried. They taste really good. They taste almost like McDonald's that way. And also, look at how you're presenting and say, hey, what am I eating with this wine? Are you making this stuff every night with your wines? No. Most of us sometimes pass through, get Chipotle, we're passing through a drive-through, we're eating really fun things at home, quick things. Sometimes your dinner is a potato chip. How many people have wine and potato chips for dinner sometimes? Come on, be realistic. Don't leave me stranded. Come on, shit. Come on, y'all. Like, we know this, right? Why can't you list that on your tasting note? Why can't you be the region to change the perspective of the tasting note? Don't make it so dry. Actually make it fun. Put a little logo up, put the dog in it. Make somebody, look, a little illustration. Because now you're the region, you guys are growing, right? But you also want to grow with the consumer. And you want consumers to come visit. You want them to pour their dollars into this region. When they pour their dollars and then take it back home and become a DTC client, which we all hope, right? Wine Club, that's what we want. How are they going to take Paso, this Central Coast area, with them to say, hey, this is my wine region? So when someone asks them where to go for wine, I always tell people when they ask me, I tell them to go to Central Coast, go to Paso. Because my first time here in 2016, I had the best time. I was with my friend. He and I were like drinking. The rooms were fun. 10 City, was going to the tasting room, pow, meeting people, got the baseball hats on. I'm like, yes, this is the region. This is the region. And it made someone like him very comfortable who didn't drink wine. And he was like, oh, I really like those wines. Now he lives in California. Now he comes up here and visits. Now he buys your wine. And so because of that, you don't have to get stuck in the label like, well, the wine, you have it, and this is what we did, and then the sun was setting, and then the dog came out, and then we pressed it. You have a time to just have a good time and keep growing the region because you guys are really nice. Like, really, I thought it was fake at first. And then I was like, no, they actually are nice. Because I visited most wine regions around the world and in California, and I don't have that same experience. So as a black person, I walk into a winery, and I just go, I'm waiting for it to happen. I'm just waiting for somebody to just not pay me any attention. They don't think I'm here to buy wine. They don't think I'm here to know anything about wine. And then they're here to talk to me like I'm a child. It happens, but it's never happened here in Central Coast. So that is one thing that hinders a lot of people in the whole DEI multicultural arena because they want to feel welcomed. But I always say, go to the Central Coast. You might not want to leave California to go back home. So today when you leave here, I want you to look at your phone, go to whoever does your marketing, whoever designs your website, and says, how can we make this fun and approachable so we get more consumers when they think of going to California wine country, they're coming here. And that's your job. It's not to sit and listen to another woe is me story. Oh, no, we're not doing that. The glass is half full. If you heard me at Unified, that's what I said. The glass is half full. So we're going to be positive. Even though everybody else wants us to be negative, the data wants us to be negative, but we're going to be what? About what? Wine. Come on, we're going to be positive about wine. If you are not positive, why the hell should everybody else be? Am I right? So, Central Coast, why now? Because we can. That's it. That's it. Because we can, and because we're fun. So I'm going to give you 3-4 months, and I'm going to start checking all your wineries. I'm going to give you time. I'm not a person immediately. I'm going to start checking your wineries, and I hope with all the love and kindness I bring you to tell you, let's fun it up. Come on, summer's coming. We're outside, people. Come on, summer's coming. Let's make it fun. So Central Coast, why now? Because you can. Thank you.
questions for the group, but I want to give it to the audience first. I wore flats for this reason. Happy to run in my crowd.
I'm sitting next to you because I want to drink with you.
You want to drink with me? Come on. I'm fun. Yeah. It's bright.
I know. I'm sorry I didn't do it.
Well, I love your energy, Julia. Someone that is a huge inspiration to the entire industry. Oh, I think so. Yeah. All right, Julia, you're a huge inspiration to the industry. Thank you so much for coming. The panelists, all of you were amazing. You know, you write for so many different publications and you tour the world. I know you're going to Europe twice in like the next 14 days or something. Yeah. But, you know, you've given tremendous advice to everyone in this room. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, you know, this is not just your perspective. This is perspective that you're getting from readers, from people who, you know, support the publications that you write for. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes, because when I write about a wine region or a story, people want to hear the story, but they want to hear my personal relation to that wine, right? What connects me to that wine? It could be, hey, somebody referred it to me. I thought it was great. I looked it up. I bought the wine. And I think when we're talking like consumer, as we talk to consumers really want people to be transparent. They want it on the label. I mean, we can't, I know yesterday they brought up the Cameron Diaz Avalon wine, right? We can't be mad at her for stating false facts when we should have done our job. And I think we're putting it on celebrities to do our job when it's not their job. It's our job, right? And it's our job to say, hey, we'll be the first to be transparent. So when you go to even the website, everything's listed, right? Even if you put a QR code that allows someone to say, hey, let me pull up facts about it. Also, they want to know how you're treating your workers too. So it's not just what's in the bottle, it's everything that gets to that bottle. So consumers are readers, right? And you're going to have the ones who care about points and you're going to have the ones that don't. So you have to find a middle ground for them. And I know it's a lot of work. I am not saying it's easy. But if we want to continue to thrive, somebody has to say, you know what? Let me be the one. Let me be the one to start it. Let me be the one to change it. Let me be the one to say, hey, I know we did a note like this, but maybe if we add a little fun fact about, right? Why can't the tasting note have a fun factoid? None of them do. They're like dry as hell. Like I'm reading them and like, because I'm like, okay, well, you send me the tasting note and I'm supposed to write a story, but then I throw that all the way until I have to do so much research to like find the story. And then it becomes like, oh, okay, this region is doing this. This grape is doing this. They're having fun. They're having play. We've been through hell in 3 years. It's time to be playful. And we need to bring that to wine. And you can do that with every price point. Even fine wine can have that moment, you know. And so it's upon us to we have to do the work. Yep. And if we don't want to do the work, then we can't keep complaining. Because the work is not the millennial. That's not the work. The work is saying, okay, it was this way 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and where are we now? And you have to adjust and adapt. It's basically adapt or die. And I hate to say it that way. And it's not about because otherwise if we keep chasing age, we're gonna be chasing that forever. What you want to chase is someone who's gonna pass down why they love this winery, right? If that person who is drinking that wine at 23 gets married, have kids, and the kids see that, then now you have a legacy. So we wanna create legacy drinkers, not drinkers for now.
That's right.
I hope that answered your question.
I think, can I add to that? Because I love the idea of fun. And that helps us when you get your websites that lean into fun. Laura Deepas, when I was tasting with her, when we first became friends, it's the idea of, it's not the boysenberry, it's not the gooseberry, it's not the, light vanilla hints of, blah, 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 blah. My daughter, does it taste like chocolate chip cookies? Yes, there's vanilla in chocolate chip cookies. So but how it makes you feel. I would encourage you to put in your notes, this is what we felt. There was a winemaker that I used to work with in Oregon. He made liner notes. This makes me feel like I want to put on Led Zeppelin 4. okay? This is how it makes me feel. It's fun, and bringing that forward. We have to demystify this where it has to be posh and so on. I'm so happy when I get my daughter drinking out of a wine glass sometimes, but then she likes to get the tumbler and pour the wine. Hey, the Italians do it. Why not? However you want to have fun and make it mean to you, this helps us bring your wines to life. We talk about online. At our company, we did $3 billion on SG Proof of buyers who are spending time by themselves, clicking through images, doing this between 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. 60% of that was done alone in their little offices, trying to figure out what they wanted to do. So getting that right and making sure it's fun and reachable, accessible, this is why Central Coast is so important, and you will lead because you're fun, you're welcoming. It's great to go. Everyone that I've heard that comes out of Central Coast, like, oh man, I had such an amazing time. These people were great. We met the winemaker. First time I mentioned him before, Mac Pratt, I said, oh my God, I love you. I have to get you on the road. You look like you are the mechanic for Sons of Anarchy. People will love you. Love you. And they did. And I brought him to Florida. He had packed, we did a tasting with everyone. He had lines and it was all of these younger people that were like, hey, who's this guy? What's his story? Hey, how you doing? This is my Syrah, and I got this, and greater. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful resonance. That's how we get there, to build on your comment.
Yeah. Also, alternative packaging. I didn't mention that in my speech. That is a big deal right now. I am a canned wine drinker, so if you make canned wines, please come see me. If you make box wine, please come see me, because my family doesn't drink. And so for me to always open a bottle, or I don't like to use my Corvin. The capsules are expensive for a freelance writer. So I am always looking for alternatives just to have one glass. And I think a lot of younger people are like that. So consider alternative packaging, and that still can be fun. Get a cute box, get a cute can. Yeah.
One of the books that I love to read, and I found it, is Big Macs and
Big
Burgundy.
Macs and Burgundy.
Big Macs and Burgundy.
Yes.
If you don't have it, find it. Amazon, $14.99. Not promoting for them. But it gives you that idea of like, this is where the fun is.
This is where the fun
first time
is.
I brought in Church's Fried Chicken with champagne, my champagne sales went up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now you have a different perspective. I'm a Blanc de Blanc with Lay's potato chips for sparkling, and then
Yep.
I am a Blanc de Noir with Ruffles. Ruffles has less salt, so that's how I.
There we go. Yep.
Noted.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have a question primarily for Cindy, but anybody can take a stab at it. So, Cindy, since you cut your teeth in the LA market, I've been banking wineries for over 20 years, and Northern California wineries tend to find the LA market mystifying and frustrating. And so my question is it different for Central Coast wineries, and why is the LA market so tough?
I would say that it's probably the reverse effect when you find, the San Francisco market very discerning as well. There's difficulties in San Francisco itself right now is having difficulty. I think for Central Coast, it's like you don't really. I found that sometimes it's like it's in my backyard. I want something different. I want Bordeaux. I want Burgundy. I want to take a look at Spain. Can you get me? Can you get me something different? I think that is probably one of the driving reasons, but it also has to do that this element of fun. The buyer's younger. I mean, we're seeing these buyers absolutely be 28 years old, and they're making major decisions in not only independent on-premise, but also chains. We have to bring the fun, and what we're going to do, what we need from our tools is how do we bring it to alive in their restaurants and tell the story. For me, I use Central Coast all the time. If I had someone that was working for me in LA, you want to know how wine's made? At the time, go see at the time Jim Clendenin, crazy, wonderful, wonderful guy, and he's going to make it fun, and he's not going to show you a bladder press, and he's going to tell you about it, but he's going to show you why the wine tastes this way and have some fun doing it. So I think we can do a better job of using Central Coast as a resource of education. It's an hour and a half up the road. So we may as well do that and bring it closer to us, because what brought you to it and taught you, you have a loyalty to it. So I would say that we can do a better job of bringing it closer that way and not just about the bottle.
Any other questions?
I have a question, but it's for Jane and Bezel. Oh, somebody has one out here?
Yeah, right over here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious for Aaron and Jane here. So I know obviously Bezel's more of a wholesale brand right now, and you're talking about building a tasting room, but I'm curious, as far as the research you've done and the data you've got, are you finding that you're introducing a completely new customer base because of a Central Coast appellation, or are you finding a lot of cross-marketing opportunities? And are you also seeing the flip side of that, which is your Napa-centric crowd actually trading over to taste Central Coast as well?
Thank you.
Please.
First of all, I think we would say that high tide raises all boats. And so we're seeing excitement about our brands in general. We definitely are seeing a different consumer come in and taste our wines. One of the reasons that we're really starting small with a bunch of test markets that will go national probably pretty quick here, I would suspect, is we just want to see what happens with cannibalization. Are people going to trade and walk away from cake bread? That is not what we're seeing. We're actually very excited. We're gaining some interest with folks that would normally maybe pass us by. And so we're going to continue to build on that as well.
Is everybody else just as hungry as I am after listening to Julia and Cindy here? I love what you guys are saying about fun and discovery. And Jane, I'd love to know from you, what are some of these varieties that you're going to be working with for your direct-to-consumer brands? What do you hope to do?
Yeah.
Yes,
gosh.
Jane.
Oh,
What
I
are
know.
those brands?
This is
Those varieties.
one of my goals for this year, so I should work on that. Look, I mean, coming from Australia and then also being based in Paso, you almost are stuck with kind of too much choice, to be honest. But that can be a really, really good thing. So, I mean, I want to kind of be authentic to my experience, and a lot of that is, especially, I came to California to work for Bonnie Doon and to really work and focus on Rhone varieties. And so, geez, and it doesn't seem that original, but yeah, geez, the GSM sounds pretty good to me. And there was a point in time back in Western Australia where I made an absolute shit ton of Tempranillo. And I think that's a variety that in Paso, and especially, with a little bit of Graciano thrown in there as well, I think that's something that is kind of underrated right now. And I'd love to get that in front of some of the Cake Bread Wine Club folks. So that's definitely what I'm thinking about. But I'm also someone I like to be inspired by cool vineyards. So I think the really fun part of it for me is kind of exploring the nooks and crannies. And if anyone out there wants to show me your stuff, I'm up for it. I want to kind of explore the corners and see what's out there. And this is the beauty of the Central Coast, right? We can kind of carve our own path and do it our way. So, yeah, I think it's really exciting, and yeah, the world is our oyster.
Julia, I think you said you had a question?
I had a question for Jane and Adam and Aaron. What was the process of the label? Because I'm from Houston, and H-E-B is like the best grocery store ever in Houston. But what was the process where you guys looked at the label and wanted to make it such as those labels stand out when they were showing on the slides? Like, it makes somebody wants to do this. I mean, I'm sure people here are also thinking about labels maybe for future wise. What was the process to come up with those labels?
I can touch a little bit on some of it.
I'll follow up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm probably a little bit later to the party than Aaron was. He was standing there lonely with a drink, and then I just came in once the dance floor had already started. But I think in the labels, there's a lot of talk about, from the design team, incorporating a sense of movement. We're, by no surprise, trying to reach different consumers. And so it was really important also to have the imagery of a diverse, there's kind of a face on each one, and really to make sure that we are having people that can see themselves in those labels. A little bit of a nod to the Cake Bread history with the black and white photos. So the background on each one is a different black and white photo that had been taken by Jack, which I just think that is such a cool way of tying it home. Yeah, having it bright, having it vibrant. What else?
I think the only thing I would add is a little bit of modern art on each of those bottles was what we're trying for. And I hope, and we'll continue that through as we go forward.
And we're seeing a lot of, I think, for me, I think they're quite feminine kind of touch, and we are seeing it be really, really popular with women in that age group. But I think also, people are more interested in design now. So I think it looks like a work of art, and I think that's capturing, and I hope that's capturing a lot of people who appreciate that.
And you keyed into it. It's approachable. People don't have to worry when they pick it up. That was our goal also.
I will say there's a website called Fiverr where you can find designers if you don't have an in-house designer and you need a label made. There's Fiverr you can use to find a designer at an inexpensive cost, because as the approachability of a label now, I mean, it's just working in retail just helped me hone in on how consumers choose bottles. And I mean, they go there and they're like, okay, well, if they got a QR code, does the label move? Is it things going on? So that is a very important part, but I understand budgeting constrictions for some wineries. So I would say outsource to Fiverr.
It's a great idea.
Yesterday we were told that numbers are not very important when people are making decisions about wines, like what score they got in a certain publication. And there used to be an old dictum in the wine PR that, scores, awards, and reviews are what help sell your wine. And if you were to rank those three attributes, which ones are still relevant today?
You said scores?
Scores, awards, and reviews. And when I mean awards, I mean with competitions. There's a competition
I
here.
think reviews will be first for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think the competition awards, because it depends on where you are. Like if in DC, there's really a lot of great wine stores, right? I worked at one in a gentrifying neighborhood, which means you had people making millions of dollars and people below the poverty line. And you had all types of customers. And we had shelf talkers. And one day a customer came in and was like, I want to meet Parker because Parker liked this wine. And no Parker worked there. Right? That was the shelf talker. And he was like, I just want to know why Parker gave this many points. And then the owner decided to get rid of all shelf talkers unless you worked there. So it was, Julia likes this with a chicken burrito bowl from Chipotle because I was working there. And it made a big difference because now people wanted my review. So my review went on the shelf talker as just a fun wine hanging out with friends. And so I think reviews matter more because you have a generation that just didn't grow up with points or any kind of wine judge. And I do wine judging and I understand. I think that's for certain retail outlets. I don't think it's for every retail outlet, but I will say I think reviews still matter.
I would agree with reviews. To your point, an authentic review.
Yes.
Julia likes it, and by the way, that's Julia right there. You can go talk to her. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Why, ratings, yes, there's certain people who will always buy by the numbers. And I don't think that it's really the younger crowd that cares about it. Why? Because, so, hey, how was school today? Did you get an A on your math test? Did you get, Mom, stop. I'm done with it. I don't want to hear about it. And I think that sometimes, and I've always felt this way, we're harder on our wines than we were on ourselves in school. I didn't graduate with a 97. Sorry. So that's why I'm kind of in the wine business. We're filled with lots of C students. So I would honestly say that it's the reviews and what you think about it, how you made it feel, what you drink with it. I enjoyed it playing poker on Friday night with and that's really underplaying it. There's lots of things to come about, but tell them how it feels and what it was. They're sure jammy, that sort of thing. That gives me an idea that, it's kind of like jammy on brioche and fabulous, good. But I think the reviews are the words, and brevity in the words is very important.
One more
question.
One more question for the Bezel team. You mentioned having a regional focus for launching the project, and I'm just wondering, are you launching that project through the traditional 3-tiered system layered under cake bread, or are you going, because H-E-B, it is an enormous percentage of their business direct with producers, so are you launching that as a direct item in regional markets, or is it falling under the 3-tier system? And are you, if it is direct, is margin enhancements and working with that particular retailer to make sure that you're getting, prime shelf spacing on their calendar and whatnot, I'm just wondering how it's structured, and is it traditional or not?
I would say we're definitely in a traditional format as we start releasing this. We'll probably play with that as we go. We're really still in the test phase, and in the next couple of years, next year, well, with this vintage, we'll start with, it'll be a national release. But we're following the 3-tier system at the moment.
And I think the HEB release was interesting. That released 3 months before the other wines. And it literally happened because the head buyer of HEB was at a dinner somewhere with the president of Cake Bread. And they said, oh, hey, we're launching a new brand from the Central Coast. And he said, I want it first. And I went, oh, okay. And so that's how HEB got it first. It's kind of mind-bogglingly simple.
Happenstance, yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Great question, thank you.
All right, well, I think it's time to start wrapping up anyway. Oh, do we have one more? Oh, sorry.
First, I don't think I'm on. Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Magical. Firstly, Julia, I'll have an extra dirty triple olive martini.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't hear me either.
Yay!
I was going to say that's my favorite
Get in line.
prelude is an extra dirty triple olive martini. I'll have one with you anytime. So, Bezel team, beautiful and captivating. Congratulations, just really gorgeous and evocative. My question for all of you is, knowing the incredible power that the consumer holds, where do you see consumer-generated content in influencing the cycle?
I think it's social.
Lead us out so we can just say we agree.
I think it's social. I've been like really against me personally, because like TikTok, but I have a niece who's convinced me to record videos of wines with snacks that we're doing starting in May, like all these little videos of all these different snacks with these amazing wines. And she did it because she was like, I think you could reach my age group. And she's 26. And so she was like, because I see you at the house doing it, and they don't drink. Now, this is the funny thing. This is a niece that doesn't drink, but her friends are on TikTok who do drink. So she's like, I will help you film these videos. So I think the power of social media right now we cannot dismiss it. It's not going anywhere. That's the thing. It's actually giving more power to how people view brands. And that's why I was like, if you look at your social media, and I always say, is your social media for your company's website diversified? Does it look like the world? And once you start doing that, you'll see a newer client. Because people want to see themselves represented. They want to feel what you feel about your wine, but they want to see themselves represented in that.
They want to see diversity in it, absolutely.
Yes.
And it's one thing to have the Insta play, and I know that there are some winemakers that are really heavy on TikTok and so on, and they do weird stuff like walk through a vineyard and say, okay, top 5 things that make you happy or whatever. It's more of a personal get to know me. Mm-hmm. The engagement back is very important. We from our perspective, we have people come in saying, well, we have 200 million people following us, or not that, well, that would be the Rock, but we have 150,000 people following us on Instagram. Usually my first question is like, hey, that's great. What is your ping back to them? What is your level of engagement? Yeah. How are you making it personal? Like, hey, thanks so much. We really appreciate that. And even if it's 2 sentences, it sounds like it's really heavy duty, time consuming, but every time you do that, now someone's like,
they got back to me.
They got back to me. They know me. I'm going to go buy their wine. It really matters, the circle back engagement.
And also, when I say diversity, I don't mean also nationalities and race. I mean like age as well. So not just young people, but across the board of the legal drinking age. Like you can have your 20-somethings, your 30s and 40s, and just think about that campaign. And I will say, if you read the data on the Clos du Bois campaign, when they put different ages, their sales rose by 21%. I mean, and they did it all through Instagram. I mean, it's a way of looking at, and so you have people who never thought they would be seen in that ad, like, oh, okay, I see that now, maybe I'll go enjoy that. So it's always thinking and also making it personal. People want to feel seen and they want to feel heard, and they just want to know they have a voice in your company.
Well, as the resident millennial at Wine Business Monthly, I want to take everything they said, transcribe it, put it in the magazine, and then make everybody absolutely read this. Yeah. Thank you for making wine fun, for talking about discovery, for all of the great things that the Central Coast holds. Just as a personal aside, the very first winery that actually made me feel welcome when I got into the wine business was down here in the Central Coast. I was 23 years old and trying to learn about wine, and for once, somebody didn't talk down to me or ignore me because I wasn't going to be spending a lot of money because, let's be honest, what 23-year-old has any money? So thank you for everything you do. Thank you for bringing the human back to wine. Keep that up, keep the hospitality up, and you guys are going to absolutely succeed. Thank you, Julia, Cindy, Jane, and Aaron. I really appreciate everything you had to say and for flying in and joining all of us today.
My pleasure.
We are going to break. Please visit the trade show, and then don't forget we do have that wine tasting at the end of the day of the Slow Coast ABA. The wines, the winemakers are incredible. You don't want to miss it, but if you do, I get to take home the last bottles. So, either way, it's good. Thank you for joining us.